All right, we're going to get started here as a few more people roll in. I want to thank you guys for joining us today. Today, we're going to talk about the new MindEar app. The new MindEar app gets a fresh new look. We have some significant updates that for those of you who are currently using the app may have already noticed. And if you're new to the MindEar platform, this will give you a nice fresh look at what the MindEar app has to offer. My name is Michael Piscos. I am an audiology who has specialized in tinnitus management for the last 15 years. And I'm very happy to present the MindEar webinar today, the MindEar app, A Fresh New Look. Just to remind you, at the end of this webinar, I will open it up for a question and answer session. So feel free to hang around a few minutes after if you have any questions, and I'll be happy to take those. As always, you can visit us at mindear.com to find out any new news and to find out other informational, helpful content as it pertains to your tinnitus and tinnitus management. So to give you an idea of what we're going to talk about today, on the agenda, we'll start off talking about how everybody's tinnitus journey is unique. Each one of you, although you may share similar qualities and characteristics of your tinnitus and your management style, everybody experiences tinnitus a little bit differently. And then we'll take a few moments to point out the complexities of the tinnitus profile. This really helps us sympathize and empathize with what people who are struggling with tinnitus are going through and the complexities of that process. And then we'll dive into the stages of the tinnitus journey and we'll explain those, and you can identify where you might be in your journey. And we'll touch upon the habituation process, which is something many of you have probably heard before. And then we'll finish up going over the new MindEar app and what you can expect to get from the new MindEar app updates that are now available both on the iOS platform for iPhones as well as Google Play for Android-based phones. And the goals today, I hope, are a couple of things. One, that you walk away understanding the tinnitus journey to relief a little bit better, getting some credible information about realistic expectations, realistic timelines, and what you can do to help manage your tinnitus. Hopefully, you'll walk away identifying some helpful tinnitus tools that might work for you, or that you might want to try to see if they provide you any benefit. And lastly, to learn about the new MindEar app and how this can benefit you in your journey to finding tinnitus relief. So the first thing I want to point out is that everybody's journey is unique. And what's great about the MindEar app is the MindEar app is a flexible app that offers you a variety of different tinnitus tools so that you can find what works best for you and you can tailor the app to your specific needs. One of the important things to remember through your journey to finding tinnitus relief is that commitment and perseverance are key to achieving the results that you want. And that's true of most things in life, right? Whether you want to save money, you want to lose weight, commitment to the process and seeing that process through are vital to achieving the outcomes that you want to. And for tinnitus, the time it takes for people to actually start finding some relief varies from person to person. This is one of the most popular questions we get is how long does it take to start noticing some tinnitus relief? And there's not a one size fits all answer to that question. For some very fortunate people, within a matter of days or weeks, using some of the tools we'll talk about today, they can start to find some relief from their tinnitus. But for others, it does take a little bit longer. For others, it can take months. And for some people, it can even take 6 to 12 months or even a little bit longer than a year. The important thing is to, again, commit to the process and see it through. We talked about the complexities of the tinnitus profile, meaning the complexities of the physical, the emotional, the mental challenges that one has to face when they're struggling with tinnitus. And there's a variety of them. And what you see here on the screen are just some of them. I'm sure some of you might have other traits that you'd like to add to this slide, and that's perfectly okay. But oftentimes, what we see with people who are struggling with tinnitus is that it's not just the tinnitus itself. The tinnitus is often wound very tightly inside of a number of other things that could be affecting life, such as stress and anxiety, um, a lack of good sleep quality. Sleep is so important for our wellness and well being. And if we're not getting enough sleep, that can definitely affect our overall state of health. And tinnitus and sleep kind of go hand in hand. You know, there are people who struggle with tinnitus so much that it makes it difficult for them to fall asleep. And there are also people who, because of the lack of their sleep, pay more attention to their tinnitus. So it's a little bit of a bi-directional relationship. Some people actually go through bouts of depression, and we don't always mean necessarily clinical depression. Depression is kind of a spectrum. There are different severities of depression, but it's not uncommon, especially if you're not sure what tinnitus is and you don't have the information to educate yourself about what tinnitus is and what it isn't. That can create negative thoughts and negative feelings and can make us feel down. And ultimately, we want to give you the tools so that you can find some relief over time. And lastly, something that's really important to remember is that tinnitus is part of your overall hearing health. So if you feel like you might be struggling with your hearing, that you might have some hearing loss, if you haven't seen a hearing healthcare professional or an audiologist in some time within the last year or two, it's a good suggestion to get a baseline hearing test from your audiologist just to rule out any other conditions that might be causing tinnitus. So that's always a good first step. The MindEar tinnitus journey to relief, not only do we acknowledge all the complexities of the tinnitus profile, but we also understand that there are stages in which everybody goes through. So everybody experiences tinnitus uniquely, and the way everybody goes through these different stages will be unique to each person. The four stages of the MindEar tinnitus journey are: stage one is awareness, stage two is allowance, stage three is acclamation, and stage four, where we hope we can get everybody, is to the achievement stage. Now, we're going to take a little deeper dive into what each of these stages looks like and what are some tips that we can provide you to help you get through them. Stage one, awareness. This is the stage where we become aware of our tinnitus. So these are the early days of when we first start experiencing our tinnitus. And we probably notice something for the first time, and it can be very distressing, especially if you don't know what it is. It can be very annoying, and it can create a lot of frustration. Probably the most common step in this stage is information searching. And that can be challenging in and of itself, because I'm sure many of you have experienced, if you type in the word tinnitus online, what happens? You get a million and one different websites to look at and videos to look at. And how do you know which ones are credible and how do you know which ones are scams? And that can be very challenging to sift through all that noise. And that's why it's important to have platforms like MindEar to ensure that you are getting professional information and advice on how to manage your tinnitus. So some of the common steps in this first stage, awareness, are, as we just mentioned, doing some information searching, whether that's online or talking to a healthcare professional, and educating yourself with credible and truthful, scientifically backed information. This is a good time to download the MindEar app and any other maybe sound therapy apps you might like to use. And this is a good time to start exploring with different types of tinnitus management techniques. One of those would be sound therapy. Sound therapy is very easy to incorporate into your life. And sound therapy is, at its most basic, just incorporating some type of sound into your environment to create some contrast between a quiet background and your tinnitus. So a really good example of this could be putting on the TV when you're at home, even if you're not watching it, just to have some of that background sound to make it a little bit harder to hear your tinnitus, what we call partially mask your tinnitus. Other types of exercises, like relaxation exercises or mindfulness exercises, are very good to incorporate in this early stage of your tinnitus journey. As time progresses and you move into the next stage, stage two, which is the allowance stage, this is where you are now starting to accept your tinnitus, the fact that you now understand the condition that you have. And as frustrating and distressing as it may be, there's an element of acceptance that this is now part of your life. This can oftentimes be the most challenging stage in this entire journey because it forces us to confront ourselves and the truth of this is a sound that's there, it's real, it's bothering me, it's affecting my life, and there's something I need to do about it. Those are the kind of thoughts and feelings you might have in this second stage. And these are working through those negative thoughts or those feelings of anxiousness, and to hopefully get to a place where you understand there are tools and there are techniques that I can use to help manage my tinnitus. And this is a good stage to start implementing some of those. So this is where you really start to begin your MindEar journey, from the sense of starting to interact and incorporate some of the exercises we're going to talk about a little bit later. As I mentioned, this can be a very challenging stage, and there's no exact timeline of how long it takes to get through this second stage. And that's why everyone works at their own pace, and that's perfectly okay. In stage two, the allowance stage, this is where we introduce what we call cognitive behavioral therapy, otherwise known as CBT. CBT is really about changing the way we think about things, inevitably will help change the way we feel about them. So if we can change our thoughts about tinnitus from negative thoughts, thoughts of despair and hopelessness, to thoughts of proactivity and hope, and learning how to use the techniques that we'll talk about to help you improve every day. That's how we can use cognitive behavioral therapy. And in turn, this is when we kickstart and begin that habituation process, which we'll talk about here in a few minutes. In the second stage, because this is such a challenging stage, talking to a tinnitus healthcare expert, such as the ones we have here at MindEar, or a tinnitus coach, could provide some value at this point, someone that you can lean on, get some support from, and some guidance from to help you work through this stage. At this point, you might have already identified some sounds that you like to use to help distract you from your tinnitus or help relax you from the stress that might be caused from the tinnitus. You might want to increase the use of those sounds and think of some other ways in which you can use those sounds, not just listening to it during the day, but maybe incorporating them before you go to bed to help you get a better night's sleep. And to also continue any relaxation exercises or mindfulness practices that may be helping you. And it's very important to remember that once you find some things that help you manage your tinnitus, keep using those things. Don't be afraid to explore and find new things that might be able to help distract you from your tinnitus. But at the same time, if you find things that are not helpful, it's okay to cross those off your list as not helpful things to do. And that's a very important part of this process, is to identify what helps you and ignore the things that don't. So we talked about this process called habituation. Well, what exactly is habituation? We do the process of habituation every single day of our lives. A good example of this is your clothes. Now that I mentioned your shirt, you can probably feel your shirt, tugging at your shoulders, maybe your elbows, around your chest. You can feel your shirt because I've mentioned it, and now you're thinking about it. You probably thought about your shirt when you first put it on this morning, but as you went about your day, other things require your attention and distract you, and you stop thinking about your shirt because it wasn't a major priority to help you achieve the things you wanted to do today. So you habituated to feeling your shirt, but now that I talk about it, you become more aware of it. Another good example of this would be like your refrigerator hum. Most appliances make a very low hum, but we tend to not pay attention to them because they're not important signals to us. They're kind of neutral signals just in the background. We habituate to that refrigerator hum over time that we don't pay attention to it anymore. And that's really what we're trying to do with the tinnitus is we want to think of the tinnitus as the refrigerator hum. We want you to get to a point where the tinnitus is in the back of your mind, just like the refrigerator hum, and you're not paying attention to it, and you're allowing yourself to focus on other things that are more important. But that is a process. So the steps of habituation start by paying attention to this new stimulus, which in this case would be tinnitus. And as you start paying more attention to it, you start to train yourself to listen for it. So you're intentionally listening for it, and it's creating this stress and this frustration. And in turn, it creates this vicious cycle. You listen for it, it creates the frustration, it creates the stress and the frustration make the tinnitus worse, and the cycle continues. But ultimately, we want to break that cycle. We want to reduce the disruption of tinnitus. We want to do that by changing your thoughts from negative thoughts about tinnitus to more neutral, proactive thoughts about what you can do. And this is where, by using things like sound therapy and relaxation exercises, those can help disrupt and reduce the attention that you pay to your tinnitus. And then over time, as you work through that process, just like the refrigerator hum, the tinnitus becomes a sound just in the background. And that is when you've achieved habituation. When you are now in control of your tinnitus, not the other way around, where your tinnitus is in control of you. So as you're going through this process of habituation, you're still going to be going through the MindEar journey. And as you're going through habituation, you're going to enter stage 3 at some point. And this is the acclimation stage. And this is where the habituation really starts to take place. And we begin to adapt to the tinnitus, just like the refrigerator hum. And it becomes less noticeable and less bothersome and can help reduce the amount of stress we feel. It could be less disruptive when we try to go to sleep. And during this stage, you want to, as I mentioned earlier, explore new things. And this is a great stage to explore more in the MindEar app and to find other things that help you as well. You want to continue the cognitive behavioral therapy and the habituation process that we've talked about. You might want to incorporate sound therapy more hours throughout the day, but you'll figure out at this point how much sound therapy and when you need to use sound therapy. Continue to reshape those negative thoughts and perceptions using things like CBT. Working on improving your sleep quality. As we mentioned earlier, the relationship between sleep and tinnitus. It's also important to begin to recognize your self-strength and resilience. Because if you've gotten to stage 3, that means you've gotten through stage 2. And you should self-reward yourself for that, because that is a very challenging stage to get to. So when you get to stage 3 and throughout this entire journey, it's important to stop, take a moment, self-reflect, and reward yourself for the gains that you've made, for the progress that you've made. Even though there may still be a road ahead of you to get where you want, it's important to take the time out to recognize your self-strength. And again, this time, if talking to a tinnitus coach is something you might think is helpful to you, you can continue to do those types of sessions as well. And then lastly, when you're finally seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, we're entering stage 4, and this is the achievement stage, where you are now in control of managing your tinnitus. You've learned what tinnitus is, you've become more knowledgeable and educated, you are familiar with the tools that you need in order to help you manage your tinnitus, and it's no longer causing you distress or interferes with your daily activities. It's important to note that that doesn't mean the tinnitus won't be there. Just like the refrigerator hum is still there, you're just not paying as much attention to it. And this is the stage where, just like in the stage 4 of habituation, you are now in control of your tinnitus, not your tinnitus is in control of you. You want to continue to use the MindEar app and continue to use the practices and the techniques that are working for you. In fact, you may never stop using some of those things. Many of the exercises that you'll use for tinnitus management are good for just overall stress reduction. So these are good practices to keep doing, even if you do get to stage 4. This is a stage where you can help and support others if that's something that's of interest to you. To get to a place where you feel better about your tinnitus is very empowering. And that story can also help a lot of other people who are struggling with tinnitus as well. And as I said, continue to use those helpful strategies, techniques, and applications, and don't be afraid to continue to explore to find new things that might work for you as well. So before we go in, I'm going to ask you guys a question just to get a little bit of better understanding. Um, we're going to ask you guys a question here. So what tinnitus management practices provide the most benefit to you? Feel free to answer. This helps us understand what types of features as we move forward with the MindEar app could be helpful for people struggling with tinnitus. So it's very interesting to see what kind of tinnitus management practices you guys have found helpful. I'll give you a couple more minutes here. All right. So as you can see, most of you said using some type of sound therapy is very helpful, followed by some stress relieving exercises. And you can see for some of you, talking to a professional and practicing some mindfulness or meditation are helpful. I think this is important and points out that, different things work for different people. And that's why we want to offer you a flexible platform so that you can utilize those services and features that work best for you. Okay, as we go through, I'll ask you guys a couple more questions to get a little more insight about some of your experiences as well. As we move forward, if you do have any questions that you'd like me to answer a little bit later on during the Q&A, feel free to type it in the Q&A section that you'll see down below. Now I want to take you through the MindEar app and with the new updates, what you can expect in this new version of the MindEar app. So for those of you who are currently using the MindEar app, if you've done the update, you've probably noticed some of these changes. And today we'll walk through that to make you a little more familiar with the new layout. And for those of you that are new to MindEar, this will be a really good introduction for you about what the MindEar app can offer you. Okay. So, to download the MindEar app, it is available both on the App Store for iOS as well as Google Play if you have an Android-based phone. So as you explore the new MindEar app, there's a couple things you'll probably notice that stand out right away that are new. One is you have the ability to create your own personal journey. And what does that mean? Well, that means that you can create a journey that triggers activities that are best suited for your particular needs. As we said earlier, everybody has a unique journey. Therefore, the exercises and the journey that you go through should be tailored to your personal needs. You'll also noted we have an expanded soundscape library, so you have more soundscapes to choose from. Those soundscapes are adjustable, so each soundscape gives you 5 sounds that you can manually adjust according to your liking, along with new visuals, which are there to help promote relaxation. Guided and mindfulness meditation exercises at the press of a button. And we also have a hearing screening option. As I mentioned earlier, the relationship between tinnitus and hearing health. If you want to do a quick hearing health check, you do have that option inside the MindEar app. So for those of you that are new and have not created a MindEar app, the first thing you're going to have to do is create your MindEar account. And this allows you to become a MindEar community member. And we've made it very easy for you. You can sign in with either your Apple ID, your Google account, your Facebook account, or your own personal email. Whichever one is easiest for you, you have the ability to use that login information. So we make that very easy for you. That's the first step. And then once you've logged in and created an account, there'll be a few screens that are for onboarding. And we'll ask you a few questions in that introduction. And this allows us to help create that personalized tinnitus journey I was talking about. So you can see the first question you'll notice is, how much has your tinnitus bothered you recently? Then we'll also talk to you a little bit about setting some goals. And according to how you answer those questions, we'll create a personalized tinnitus journey that will incorporate exercises that are relevant to your needs. When you create this personalized tinnitus journey, you'll get a multi-level step-by-step path to follow. And that's all personalized and automated just for you. So there are multiple levels in the journey. Just like most journeys that you go through, there are multiple levels. And once you get through a certain level, you can unlock certain rewards that might open up some soundscapes for you. And each level you complete, you can unlock a new reward. And if you're someone who prefers to explore on your own rather than follow the journey, we do have a self-care section. On the bottom menu, you'll see that there's an icon, a heart icon that says self-care. If you press on that icon, it'll take you to this self-care section where you can access all the guided exercises that are in the journey. You can access them manually. So if you just want to do some exploration on your own, we do give you the flexibility to do that. As I mentioned earlier, CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, we do provide these exercises within the app, and these exercises help reframe your thoughts and can help create a more positive approach to tinnitus management. And you can do this within the app using our chat system called TinnyBot, and you can see on the right there a little demonstration of it where you can engage with our chat system that will provide you some tips on what you can do to help manage your tinnitus and reshape those thoughts from negative to a more proactive approach to your tinnitus management. So lots of new features that you have access to. In addition, there are a lot of relaxation exercises that you can listen to both within your journey and in the self-care section. As I mentioned, the new Soundscape library. So not only have we expanded our Soundscape library, we've updated the images as well. So you'll find new soundscapes in our library, along with the new visual imagery to help set that comforting mood. And you'll also notice on the little demo on the right, once you come out of the Soundscape screen in the app, just like you see there where it says Rainy Dolphin Bay, there's a sound bar that gives you access at all times to the soundscape while you're navigating the app. So you don't have to worry about going back to the Soundscape library to control the sound. You can control that sound directly from that sound bar throughout the entire app. You can also access all of our informational videos, and these videos are all done by a number of tinnitus experts. We've got a number of experts from around the world to do podcasts, to do informational videos. Our podcast is called Tinnitus Unplugged, and we also do informational webinars, just like the one we're doing today, that all get posted on the app. You can also access these on our YouTube channel, which is the MindEar YouTube channel, or you can access them directly in the app. So you have multiple places where you can access these very helpful and informational videos. And then another feature we have is that the app has been built in dark mode. If you're not familiar with dark mode, this is an option on your phone where you can kind of invert the contrast and you'll have a darker screen as opposed to a lighter screen. And the reason why some people like dark mode is for a few reasons. As it pertains to tinnitus, having a dark screen can help promote better sleep quality. I'm sure many of us probably sleep with our phones on our bedside. And if the phone goes off, it's a bright screen that can oftentimes draw our attention and distract us from our sleep cycles. Dark mode clearly has a darker screen so that if it does go off, that brightness is not nearly as much of a contrast. And this can help promote better sleep quality. It also can extend the device's battery life since it's not using as much of the light. And it's also been shown to reduce eye strain. So we built the app with dark mode in mind to help promote these things for people struggling with tinnitus. It's a small change, but one that has a very large impact for many people. As I mentioned earlier, for those of you who feel that talking to a tinnitus coach is something that could be helpful for you, you do have the ability to book an appointment with one of our tinnitus coaches, either directly through the app, where you can see here, there is an option to talk to a tinnitus coach. You just simply hit the book a time button, and that will take you into our calendar where you can book an appointment directly from there at a time that's convenient for you. We offer two types of appointments. We do offer a 15-minute free video call. This is to get a better understanding of what you're going through with your tinnitus, to talk about some things you may have tried and what your options are moving forward. If you do want to do a more formal tinnitus coaching session, those are 45-minute coaching sessions, and a fee does apply to that. But you do have the option of booking these 15-minute free consultations directly from the app. You can also book it from the website as well. And some other ways to get in touch with us. You can either scan that QR code by using the camera on your phone. That will take you directly to our calendar. Or you can also email us at contact@mindear.com. And as I mentioned, you can also book an appointment via the website. So you have a variety of different channels in which you can reach out to us and talk to one of our tinnitus coaches. You might be asking, what does tinnitus coaching do exactly? And how is it something that could benefit you? Well, one, it could be a partner in navigating the journey and the habituation process. It's not something you have to do on your own. As we mentioned, stage two and stage three can be the most challenging stages. Sometimes having a partner to help you navigate those stages can be very helpful. Talking to a tinnitus coach in stage one can also be very helpful to answer any questions that you might have. They can also provide emotional support, someone to talk to. I'm sure many of you find it challenging to talk to other people about your tinnitus. That's largely because other people can't hear it. So it's really difficult for them to visualize what you're going through at times. Education and understanding. If you have some questions and you want to get information and advice, we can also provide tips and answer some of those more difficult questions. And also, as we said earlier, it can help in assisting to change some of those negative thoughts, help reduce any fear and anxiety you might have, as well as provide some coping strategies, ways to help promote relaxation and mindfulness. So tinnitus coaching is very, very helpful. So if this is something you think is something that could help you, by all means, don't hesitate and book an appointment with us. To show you what some of the early reviews are for the MindEar app, you can see what some of our users are saying. The promise of getting my life back is now a realistic goal. I mean, that's about as good as it gets. There's a lot about sound therapy and informational stuff you can learn, new and accessible ways to make life more comfortable, and it helps ease the annoyance of tinnitus and the anxiety it can cause. So we've gotten some really good reviews so far, and you can see we've got a nice high rating there. However, we do want to continue to help promote the MindEar app. So if you're someone who has used the MindEar app, or if you do use the MindEar app and you do find it something that helps you, we greatly appreciate your ratings and reviews, as that helps us know we're doing the right job. And two, it also lets other people know that this is something that might be able to help them as well. So, although there is no current cure for tinnitus, there are tinnitus management strategies and techniques that many people find helpful and find allow them to achieve some relief. And we talked about a number of those different things today. But wherever you are, MindEar's here to help. And even if you just want to reach out to us, as I mentioned, our email is contact@mindear.com. Please do not hesitate. One of the nice things for today, due to this webinar, if you do go for the 1 year subscription on the app, we are offering it at 50% off. So that is a nice option of being here today. So with that said, I'm going to see if there's any questions and answers. I'm going to open this up. If you guys have any questions that you would like to discuss, let's open it up, and I'm happy to take on some of those questions that you guys might have. I'll stick around for a few minutes. If there aren't any questions, that's quite okay. But again, I appreciate your guys' time today. If you have not downloaded the MindEar app, highly suggest that you do that. Take a look and see if it's something that works for you in managing your tinnitus. Otherwise, I want to thank you guys for today, and don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions.